Hello, and welcome to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and today we're continuing with the key to key signatures. Today I'm going to show you how to create independent key signatures on a staff by staff basis. And it's fairly easy, but you do need to have a working knowledge of the staff tool, so bear with me as I go in and out of the staff tool a bit. So I've got a score set up here with flute, oboe, and piano. We're in B flat at the beginning, we're in D on page 2. And there's two ways to go about this. There's a global way, and by global I mean on a per staff basis from the beginning of the file to the end of the file, you can make the key independent. Or there's a local way to do it just for certain measures of a certain instrument, and I'll show you both of those. But let's start with the global way. So we're going to need to go into the staff tool, and let's say we're going to change the oboe. And so all we need to do is double click in the first bar, and the staff attributes dialog box appears. And we're interested in the bottom left corner here where we have the independent elements. And for a key signature, all we do is check the key signature and click OK. Now the key signature of the oboe is independent of all of the other instruments at this point. And it's still in the key from the other instruments just because we haven't made a change yet. It'll start out that way. But if you click on the key signature tool, the first thing you'll notice is there's these boxes that appear on the oboe part all the way to the end of the file, and that's just indicating that the key signature is independent in that staff. And then all we need to do is just click on this and change the key as we normally would. Let's put it in A flat, go to the end of the piece, transpose keys proportionally, and there you go. You've got your oboe a step below everybody else. It's in A flat versus B flat here, and it's in C versus D here. All right, and you can do this with any staffs you want. You can have as many different keys as you want. You can even do it, on a grand staff. You can have the hands different key signatures. So independent elements for the right hand, and then we can change this to, let's change it to G major to the end of the piece. And there you go. So now you have three different key signatures essentially. All right. Now, one thing to note about this is that if you were to then go and change the key signature of the piece itself, and by that I mean, the rest of the instruments that are not independent. So in this case, the flute and the left hand of the piano. If you were to go and change the key signature, let's say to F through the end of the piece, it's only going to change those instruments. It's not going to change the key signature of the oboe and piano in proportion, okay? So you just have to be aware that if you do need to transpose the whole piece up or down or in a certain direction, if you have independent keys, you're going to have to do each key signature change independently, if that makes sense. All right? Now, I said there's a second way to do this. Let me just go ahead and undo everything that I've done so far. There is a second way to do this locally. So you can, if you want the oboe, say, in the normal key with everybody else for most of the piece, except let's say we're going to make these 6 bars. We're going to make these 6 bars in an independent key. We can do that with a staff style. And the way we do that is I'm in the staff tool. I can right click to get to define staff styles. And we're going to create a new staff style. I'm going to call it independent key. And again, you'll notice that this dialog box looks similar to the staff attributes dialog box from before, with a major exception. Most of these boxes have a minus sign next to them, and what that indicates is that there is no change. So if we check the key signature, you'll notice that the minus sign goes to a check, which means that regardless of what the status of the independent key signature of the whole staff is, whatever's under this staff style called independent key will have an independent key signature, if that makes sense. All right. So we click OK. Now we have to define or apply staff style to score and parts. We've got our independent key here. And now you notice that you've got your staff style indication here, indicating that these 6 bars have that independent key signature. And then just go into the key signature tool, and we can change let's go to A flat, change the key signature of just those 6 bars, right? So you retain in B flat here, then goes to A flat, and then you go back to D with the rest of the instruments on the second page. See how that works? Now, there is a way to do this in the inverse as well. So let's say we go back and we do a global, let me just get rid of these staff styles here, delete that. Let's say we go back and the oboe has an independent key signature globally for the entire staff, all right? And we'll go back and make this A flat through the end. All right, so this is what we did originally, right? We had this independent key signature on the whole file for the oboe. There is a way to do this in the inverse where, let's say these 6 bars, I want these 6 bars to go back to the key signature that everybody else is playing, all right? So how do we do this? We create another staff style, and let's call it no independent key. And now I told you about the minus sign versus the check, right? If we click it again, we get a blank box. And what that indicates is that regardless of the status of the independent key signature, whatever's under the staff style will not have an independent key signature, right? So it's essentially canceling out any independent key signature that's under the staff style. So we click OK. We've just created that. Now we'll apply it. Score and parts, no independent key. And you'll notice that your staff style appears and the key signature goes back to the key signature of the rest of the piece just for those 6 bars, and then it goes back to independent on the second page. So that's how you would do that in the inverse. All right, so that's all there is to independent key signatures. I showed you how to do it globally and locally, so hopefully you've learned something about that today, and appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next video.